Every spring, as the first leaves start to green the maples and the sun warms up the sidewalks again, my mother sends out her annual group text, "Barbecue at our place. Don't forget the potato salad." And every year, I pause before answering, thumb hovering over the screen, wondering what, exactly, keeps pulling me back. It's almost ritual now, the Miller family barbecue, where time stands still but the judgments never do. The invitation comes wrapped, as always, in warmth with a side of expectation. "Hope you'll make it this year, Sarah," Mom writes, adding a little smiley face that manages to feel more like a dare than an invitation. The group chat lights up within seconds. My Aunt Patricia is the first to respond, "I'll bring my famous peach cobbler," followed by Uncle George, "Count me in. Should I grab some extra ice?" And, of course, Madison's reply lands right on cue, full of exclamation marks and casual brilliance, "Can't wait. Just landed that new account at work, so I'll bring the sparkling cider to celebrate." I read her message twice, feeling the familiar tug in my chest. Madison's successes have always been front-page news in our family, whether it's a big promotion or a new gym routine. She knows how to play to her audience, Instagram posts with perfect lighting, captions about living my best life, pictures of brunches and boardrooms. In comparison, my life is quieter. I rent a small apartment on the east side, drive a Corolla that's seen better days, and answer to a job title no one in my family can quite remember. Not that they ask. I sit on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, as the group chat fills with plans. Patricia wants to know if she should bake her cobbler with brown sugar this year. George jokes about bringing his questionable special sauce, and my mom reminds everyone to RSVP by Friday. There's a gentle chaos to it all, a rhythm I know by heart. I think back to last year's barbecue, to the way Madison made her entrance late and luminous, her hair perfect, her laughter drawing everyone's gaze. My own arrival barely registered. I'd ended up slicing onions in the kitchen while Madison gave an impromptu speech about her promotion. "We're so proud of you," my dad had said, clapping her on the back. I'd smiled, taking my seat at the folding card table in the corner. I look around my apartment now, a stack of unread library books, the scent of last night's coffee, the little fern I try not to kill. This is a life I built on my own terms, modest and a little lonely, but honest. Still, it's hard not to compare. Madison's voice, even in text, fills the room. I imagine her at her desk, glowing with achievement, while I'm still deciding whether I'll bring my famous pasta salad or just pick up a fruit tray from the store. A new message pops up from Mom, "Sarah, hope you can make your pasta salad again this year." Everyone loved it. I can't help but smile, though I know it's more about convenience than craving. It's easier, I suppose, to assign me something simple. I think of my dad's words, replayed in my mind more times than I'd admit. "You've got so much potential, Sarah, if you'd only apply yourself." Potential. Like a scratch-and-win ticket that never quite delivers. My finger hovers over the reply. I know what's expected of me, to show up, blend in, keep the peace. Maybe this year will be different, I tell myself. Maybe I'll be brave enough to do more than slice onions and smile for photos I never see again. I'll be there, I type, and hit send before I can overthink it. A few seconds later, Mom's thumbs up emoji pops up. It's done. But even as I put my phone down, I feel the old ache settle in. Family can be a lot of things, comfort, chaos, or a mirror you can't quite look away from. As I stand up and move to the window, the sun already fading behind the apartment buildings, I spot an unopened email in my inbox. The subject line is vague but urgent, something from work, flagged as important. For a moment, I consider opening it. But I leave it for later, my mind drifting back to the upcoming barbecue, wondering, hoping, if this year, things might finally shift. If life has taught me anything, it's that change rarely waits for permission. Sometimes, all it takes is showing up, whether or not you're ready for what comes next. If there's a word for the particular brand of belonging you feel when you're put in charge of napkins, I haven't found it yet. But that's where I landed, arms full of paper goods, tiptoeing around folding chairs and half-set tables as the early sun streamed through the Miller backyard. It was barbecue morning, and, like always, I showed up early, hoping that arriving before the crowd would make things easier. Instead, it just gave me a front row seat to all the invisible work. Mom was already bustling in the kitchen when I let myself in through the back door, her hair pinned up, sleeves rolled to her elbows. "Oh, you're here, good," she said, not quite looking up as she handed me a grocery bag full of supplies. "Could you set out the napkins and cutlery? And maybe refill the drinks cooler if you have a minute." Her words tumbled out as she moved from counter to stove, never pausing long enough for conversation. I got to work, folding napkins into neat triangles and lining up cups beside the lemonade. There was comfort in the routine, in the order I could bring to the chaos. The house was filled with the familiar sense of summer, charcoal, fresh-cut grass, the first hints of Mom's secret barbecue sauce bubbling on the stove. Somewhere upstairs, I could hear Dad's radio playing an oldies station, and the soft thud of someone, probably Aunt Patricia, dragging a suitcase into the guest room. By the time the first guests arrived, I was already mostly invisible. Patricia swept in, all floral perfume and opinions, declaring, "Sarah, you're a lifesaver," as I carried a stack of paper plates outside. Uncle George arrived right behind her, waving a bag of ice and cracking jokes about keeping things cool, though he avoided the kitchen entirely. The front yard filled with cars, the backyard with laughter, and still, no one really noticed me at all. That changed the moment Madison arrived. Fashionably late, as always, she swept in with a tray covered in a checkered towel and the kind of breezy confidence that only comes from knowing you'll be the center of attention. "Sorry, traffic was a nightmare," she said, though her hair was untouched by humidity, her outfit, a crisp white dress, gold earrings, and expensive-looking sandals, completely flawless. Mom nearly dropped a bowl of coleslaw in her rush to greet her, arms wide and voice high. "There she is. You made it." Madison beamed, unveiling her gastronomic creation, some sort of roasted beet salad, all artful spirals and edible flowers. The family gathered around, phones out, ready to snap pictures for the group chat. "Isn't she amazing?" someone whispered, as if she'd returned from winning a prize. I slipped quietly back to the kitchen, trying not to laugh as I remembered my own pasta salad still in the fridge, no camera phones required. The morning spun on, the yard filling with relatives and friends, everyone eager to catch up and share stories. The talk, inevitably, circled back to Madison's new job, her latest big client, the marketing campaign she'd just wrapped. "Such drive," Aunt Patricia said, shaking her head in admiration. "You've really made a name for yourself, dear." Madison's smile sparkled, and for a moment, the world seemed to turn just for her. Whenever conversation drifted my way, it was brief, soft questions about whether I was still doing admin work, then quickly turning back to someone else's news. "You know, Sarah," Mom said in passing as she checked on the grill, "you could always take a few classes, if you want. Maybe brush up on your skills?" Dad chimed in a little later, voice just loud enough to carry, "You had such promise in school, honey. You just never found your thing, did you?" His words hung in the air, part concern, part disappointment. I found myself shrinking a little, smoothing out my thrift store t-shirt and wishing, for once, I could just blend into the picnic table. Next to Madison's chic summer look, I felt like an afterthought, a utility player in a family where the star was obvious. Sometimes, I think it's easier for them if I stay small. That way, no one has to explain where all my potential went. After lunch, as plates were cleared and Dad fired up the grill for round 2, Madison stood to make an impromptu toast. "You know, luck doesn't just find you," she said, her voice carrying easily across the yard. "Sometimes, you have to create your own chances." I'm grateful for every opportunity, and for this family, who always believed in me. The applause was warm, enthusiastic. Mom wiped away a tear, Dad squeezed her hand, and the moment was perfectly, unmistakably Madison's. I tried to join in, clapping and smiling, but my hands felt cold. I caught my reflection in the kitchen window, hair pulled back, jeans and sneakers, nothing special. The ache of being left out lingered, a little sharper than usual. I started to gather empty plates when I heard voices drifting from the next room, Mom and Dad, low and anxious. "What are we going to do about her?" Mom asked, barely above a whisper. "I just wish she'd find something she's passionate about," Dad replied. "She deserves more. We can't carry her forever." It took me a moment to realize they weren't talking about Madison, they were talking about me. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling my heartbeat skip. For all my efforts, for every napkin and ketchup bottle and quietly handled detail, I was still a question mark in their minds, a puzzle left unsolved. As the afternoon sun slanted across the backyard, I slipped outside with the trash, letting the screen door bang shut behind me. The laughter continued inside, Madison's name ringing out again, and for a moment, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, one day things would be different. Until then, I'd keep folding napkins, showing up, and doing the work no one sees. Sometimes, family is about what you give, even when you're not sure you belong. You can tell a lot about a family by what's whispered in the kitchen. Our kitchen has always been the heart of the house, bright in the afternoons, smelling of lemons and summer spices, sunlight catching on the old linoleum floor. Today, the sound of laughter drifts in from the backyard, but in here, the air is thick with something quieter, history. It's just Madison and me for a moment, left behind as the others swarm around the grill outside. I'm chopping celery for the potato salad, hands steady, mind elsewhere. Madison leans against the counter, scrolling through her phone, her presence somehow filling every corner of the room. "So, you're still at that admin job, right?" she asks suddenly, not looking up. "Must be nice, not a lot of pressure, I guess." There's nothing overtly cruel in her voice, just a practiced casualness, the same tone she used back in school when she'd take over my half of the group project and claim it as her own. I remember that feeling, quiet resignation, the knowledge that no one would ever call her out. I learned early how to swallow the urge to correct her, how to let the spotlight pass me by. I focus on the rhythm of my knife, slicing celery thin, the soft crunch steadying my thoughts. My mind flickers through scenes no one in this house knows about, late nights in glass-walled conference rooms, signing my name to contracts bigger than anyone here could imagine, fielding calls from executives who address me as Ms. Miller. I remember the rush of watching a deal close, the quiet pride of a successful negotiation, but none of that belongs in this kitchen, not today. Aunt Patricia sweeps in, all perfume and opinions. She smiles at Madison, who barely glances up, and then fixes her attention on me. "Sarah, dear, have you ever thought about taking some night classes? You know, keep your skills sharp." She pats my shoulder, as if she's offering a lifeline. I nod politely, biting back the urge to tell her about my degrees, about the dissertation I defended in a university auditorium, about the lectures I've given to rooms full of professionals. It's easier this way, letting them think I'm still the girl who struggled with algebra in 7th grade. Madison laughs softly, pocketing her phone. "You know, some people just prefer a simple life, Aunt Patricia. Not everyone's cut out for the boardroom." I catch her eye for a split second. She holds my gaze, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I wonder if she suspects, if, on some level, she senses that I am not as small as she thinks. Mom pokes her head in, looking a little frazzled. Sarah, can you check the rolls in the oven? And Madison, sweetie, do you need help with your salad? There's a choreography to these moments. Madison glides out, Mom trailing after her, leaving me alone with the hum of the oven and the swirl of thoughts I can't quite shake. I check the rolls, golden and perfect, and catch my reflection in the oven door. I look ordinary, anonymous, a woman who folds napkins, who quietly fills in the spaces between other people's achievements. But sometimes, I see a flicker of something more, the confidence I wear in board meetings, the certainty that comes from making hard choices. I'm stacking plates when Madison reappears, her phone pressed to her ear. She ends the call, smiling smugly. Big meeting next week, she announces. The CEO's finally coming to the office, I can't wait. I bet I'll get to introduce myself. Her words hang in the air, tinged with anticipation and just a bit of rivalry. I smile and offer a soft that sounds exciting, though inside, I know the truth, the meeting will be more eventful than she realizes. I bite my tongue, as always, playing the role my family expects. As the kitchen fills with people again, Patricia fussing with the napkins, Mom worrying over the timing of the burgers, I glance at my phone. There's a new text from an unknown number, see you soon, Emir. My heart skips. The world outside this kitchen, the world I've built for myself, is inching closer, threatening to collide with the one my family knows. I tuck my phone away, slipping back into my place at the counter. It's strange, how easy it is to live a double life, how hard it is to let anyone see the whole truth. But maybe, just maybe, that's about to change. There's a certain rhythm to the Miller family barbecue. By mid-afternoon, laughter and the smell of grilled chicken spill across the backyard, neighbors stroll by with friendly waves, and the sun stretches shadows along the porch rail. It's the kind of gathering that makes you feel, for just a moment, that everything is as it should be. Yet this year, I carry the weight of a secret, the feeling that something's about to give. As I refill the lemonade pitcher, a memory flashes, my parents, faces beaming at my college graduation, the last time I remember them looking at me with unfiltered pride. Before I became the one who drifted, before Madison's first award and the years of quiet comparison. Back then, the applause had been for me. Sometimes I wonder if it really happened at all, or if I imagined it in the haze of all the years that came after. Today, the backyard is alive with voices. Dad tends the grill, apron askew, barking cheerful orders at Uncle George. Kids dart around the swing set. Mom and Aunt Patricia swap recipes at the patio table, their laughter tumbling like ice cubes in sweet tea. Madison holds court at the center, her beet salad drawing admirers and her stories earning all the right laughs. Suddenly, conversation pauses as a sleek black Tesla glides to a stop at the curb. Heads turn. It's a car that doesn't belong on our street, too polished, too expensive for our little neighborhood. For a beat, everything is still. Madison straightens, eyes lighting up as she spots the familiar license plate. Oh my gosh, that's Marcus, my boss, she says, adjusting her hair and smoothing her dress, her voice bright with expectation. I had no idea he'd actually come. Guests murmur, a few of the cousins craning to get a better look. Marcus Reed steps out, casual but unmistakably out of place, pressed shirt, sunglasses, confidence that feels imported from a different world. He carries himself like someone used to being noticed, but not, I think, for the reasons everyone here expects. As Marcus scans the crowd, Madison lifts her hand, ready to wave him over. But his gaze shifts right past her. For a moment, I forget how to breathe. Then he spots me, standing with the lemonade, and a slow, genuine smile lights up his face. "Mrs. Miller," he calls, his voice carrying just enough for the crowd to hear. "It's good to see you outside the boardroom for once." The effect is immediate, a ripple of confusion, then shock. Mom's hands freeze in mid-gesture, Dad blinks, spatula hanging forgotten at his side. Even Madison falters, her smile wavering as Marcus crosses the lawn, straight to where I'm standing. The chatter falters, a hush settles over the party as if someone pressed pause on the afternoon. "Marcus," I reply, setting down the pitcher and managing a smile. "I wasn't expecting you at our family barbecue." He grins, offering a polite nod to my parents before turning back to me. "I hope I'm not intruding. I was passing through the neighborhood and thought I'd say hello. I didn't mean to crash the party." Madison finally finds her voice, hurrying over with her trademark confidence. "Marcus. You remember me, Madison Miller, from the marketing team?" Her cheeks are flushed, her posture perfect. He glances at her, friendly but brief. "Of course, Madison. Nice to see you again." But his attention returns almost instantly to me. "Sarah, I was hoping we could touch base about the Morgan acquisition, if you have a moment later." The phrase lands with the subtlety of a thunderclap. Aunt Patricia's fork slips from her hand, clattering onto a plate. Uncle George's beer sloshes over his shoes. The cousins exchange wide-eyed looks. I can feel the silence building, weighted with questions no one dares to ask. Mom recovers first, voice tight with confusion. "Sarah, how do you know Marcus?" "I thought he was, well, Madison's boss?" I clear my throat, suddenly aware of 100 eyes. "We've worked together for a while now," I say carefully, meeting Marcus's gaze. "It's a small world sometimes." Marcus gives me a look, warm, respectful, but somehow challenging. Then, with an easy confidence that silences even the boldest relatives, he asks, "So, why is the CEO here at the barbecue?" There it is. The words drop into the space between us like a stone in still water. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Madison's face drains of color. Dad's spatula hits the ground with a thud. I hear the clink of glasses, the sharp exhale of someone holding back a laugh. The entire family turns to stare at me. It's as if the backyard has transformed, no longer a place of summer memories, but a courtroom with me in the witness box. The questions hang unspoken, but their weight is crushing. Who are you, really? How did we not know? I can feel my pulse in my throat, a cocktail of dread and relief. For so long, I balanced on the edge between hiding and hoping to be seen. Maybe it's true that in every life, there comes a moment when the mask finally slips, and you're left standing, exactly as you are, in the full light of day. The air feels different now, charged and fragile. Somewhere, a child's laughter dies away, replaced by the nervous shifting of feet and the awkward, expectant hush that follows a revelation. And in that silence, I realize there's no going back. Secrets have a way of unraveling, especially when someone else holds the end of the thread. I always thought I could control the narrative, keep my family's eyes away from what I built, just long enough to protect what little piece I could carve out. But Marcus's words, clear and confident, ring out over the Miller backyard, echoing in a space suddenly too small for comfort. A hush falls over the guests as if the summer breeze has been cut short. Madison stands frozen, her mouth open in disbelief, her plate untouched. I can see Aunt Patricia's phone already in her hand, fingers flying across the screen, searching, verifying. Uncle George mumbles something about impossible and shakes his head. Mom blinks as if she's been hit with a bright light, her wine glass slipping from her grip and shattering quietly on the patio stones. The red stain creeps across the concrete, and no one bends to clean it up. Dad says nothing. He's always been a man of action, a fixer, a problem solver, but now he just stares at me, jaw tight, arms hanging heavy at his sides. It's Madison who breaks the spell. No, she says, her voice trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. You're just saying that because she's my sister. Sarah can't be, she's never been anything but a secretary. She lives in that tiny apartment, drives that beat-up car. The last words come out as a sneer, as if my ordinary life is proof of my ordinariness. Marcus doesn't flinch. With respect, Madison, I report to your sister. She's the CEO of Thompson Industries, has been for the past 3 years. The boardroom you bragged about to your family? She designed it. The last acquisition? Sarah led it. A ripple of shock, then indignation, spreads through the crowd. I watch as family members do what families do best, try to make sense of something that doesn't fit their expectations. It must be a mistake, Aunt Patricia mutters. Maybe it's another Sarah Miller, but I see it in their eyes, the dawning realization that the invisible daughter, the backup, has been standing in plain sight all along. Madison steps forward, anger boiling over her confusion. Prove it, she snaps. Show us something. Why would you hide this from everyone? From me? I take a slow breath, feeling the air tighten in my chest. For so long, I let their version of me become my armor, let them underestimate, overlook, and forget me. I swallow, voice shaky but growing steadier. I didn't hide because I was ashamed, I say quietly. I just wanted to see who would treat me with kindness when they thought I had nothing to give. I wanted to know who loved me for me, not my title, not my salary, not for favors I could hand out. I didn't want to become a resource. I wanted to stay your sister, your daughter. Just Sarah. My mother's lips quiver. She looks at me as if I'm a stranger, searching for the child she remembers in the grown woman before her. Dad's expression shifts, first confusion, then something like regret. The distance between us has never felt wider. Marcus, sensing the rawness in the air, quietly lists my achievements: market value, corporate culture, employee satisfaction, charity initiatives. His words are professional, factual, but they land with the force of truth. For a moment, I see myself through his eyes, capable, decisive, respected. It's a perspective my family never thought to consider. The tension in my shoulders eases, just a little. I reach for my bag, hands trembling, and pull out an envelope. I cross the patio and hand it to my father, who takes it without a word. You've always worried about the mortgage, about losing the house, I say, keeping my tone gentle. This should take care of it. Consider it a thank you, for all the meals, the late-night rides, the times you tried, even if you didn't always understand me. Dad looks down at the envelope, blinking hard. Sarah, But before he can finish, Madison lets out a bitter laugh. So this is it. You get to play hero, and the rest of us are just fools? Her eyes brim with tears. Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? I meet her gaze, my own eyes wet. Because you always needed to win, Madison. I needed to know who I was without the competition. The backyard erupts in whispers, questions flying from every corner. Is it really true? How much does she make? Why didn't she say anything? Mom sits heavily on a lawn chair, her hands covering her face. Relatives cluster around me, firing off questions I'm not ready to answer. But I barely hear them. My heart is pounding, a strange blend of relief and fear and sadness. The mask is gone, and I'm standing in the open, exposed, but finally myself. Madison storms off, heels crunching on the gravel, her anger trailing behind her. Mom's voice cracks as she calls after her, but Madison doesn't turn. Dad clutches the envelope as if it might vanish. The rest of the family closes in, a mix of curiosity, awe, and confusion buzzing in the air. In all the chaos, I realize something quietly profound. The truth may shake the ground beneath your feet, but sometimes, it's the only way to finally stand tall. News travels fast in a family, and even faster in a small town where nothing much escapes notice. By the time I wake up the morning after the barbecue, my phone is vibrating with a dozen new messages. Cousins I haven't seen since middle school, neighbors who used to borrow sugar, old family friends whose names I barely remember, they all seem to have something urgent to say now. I scroll through the notifications, some congratulating, some curious, and some reading more like fishing expeditions for business tips or a little personal favor. I sit in my apartment, the blinds drawn against the morning sun, wondering how life could change so quickly. Just a week ago, I was the invisible daughter, the "what's she up to these days?" at every family gathering. Now, I'm a headline in the Miller group chat. The calls start around noon. Aunt Patricia leaves a voicemail, her tone suddenly syrupy. "Sarah, darling. I had no idea you were such a big shot. My nephew just started a business, maybe you could look over his proposal?" I almost laugh, but there's a familiar sting behind the flattery. Uncle George sends a text, just a link to an article about family businesses gone wrong, followed by a winking emoji. The family, it seems, has a way of turning every new fact into an opportunity. Monday brings more surprises. I'm at my desk reviewing quarterly reports when Mom walks in, unannounced, carrying a casserole dish covered in foil. "I thought you could use a hot lunch," she says, setting it down a little too forcefully. "And maybe some company." She fusses with the framed photos on my desk, swapping in a shot of me at my college graduation for one of my team at a charity event. The air between us is thick with awkward affection and years of unspoken words. We make small talk, her asking about the building, the weather, my office plants, never quite landing on what matters. I want to thank her, to say it's not food or decorations I've needed, but honesty. Still, it's hard to shake old habits. Before she leaves, Mom looks at me with a kind of pleading softness. "I just want things to go back to normal," she whispers. I don't have the heart to tell her that normal is what I'm finally learning to leave behind. Dad reacts differently. Within days, I hear that he's been bragging around town, at the hardware store, the barbers, even at Sunday services. "My daughter runs Thompson Industries," he says, almost daring someone to challenge him. He even clips newspaper articles and drops them by my office, little notes scribbled in the margins, "Proud of you, Dad." It's an unfamiliar praise, coming from a man who once measured worth in trophies and report cards. But his pride is more awkward than warm, more about what others think than how he truly feels. Then there's Madison. Instead of a phone call, she files a complaint at work, alleging favoritism and conflict of interest, hoping to stir up enough trouble to get me removed or at least embarrassed. HR, to their credit, launches a thorough investigation. I step back, letting the process run its course, refusing to let old family dynamics seep into company policy. For the first time, I draw a clear line. At work, I am the CEO, no more, no less. The gossip circles back quickly. Some employees avoid eye contact, unsure of what's allowed. Others stop by to offer their support in coded phrases, "If you need anything, I'm here," while a few seem almost gleeful at the drama. Through it all, I keep to my routine, setting new professional standards, no special treatment, no more blurring of roles, everything by the book. When the HR report comes in, I call Madison into my office. She arrives stiff-backed, eyes red from crying or rage, I can't tell which. We sit in silence for a moment, the sounds of keyboards and office chatter drifting through the closed door. "Why did you do it, Madison?" I ask quietly, not as her boss or even her sister, but as someone trying to understand. Was it worth it? She stares at her hands, then looks up, defiance and sorrow flickering across her face. You made me look like a fool, she spits. You lied to all of us. You made me work for you without ever telling me who you were. I shake my head. I never wanted to embarrass you. I just wanted to be myself, for once, without having to explain or apologize. She lets out a shaky breath. It's not fair. You always got to hide. I always had to be perfect. There's no quick fix for years of competition and misunderstanding, but something in her softens. Maybe it's exhaustion, or maybe it's the first spark of acceptance. So what happens now? She asks. Now, we move forward. As colleagues, or as sisters, if you're willing, I say. But I won't let family rules run this company, Madison. That's not who I am anymore. She doesn't answer, but she doesn't storm out, either. It's a start. Later that week, I check my phone before bed. There's a new email from Dad, just a scanned flyer for Thanksgiving at the house, my name in bold at the top of the invite list. Hope you'll be there, he writes. Everyone wants to see you, with your new status. I stare at the screen, feeling a tangle of dread and hope. Family is never simple. In a small town, reputations change overnight, but real healing takes much longer. For the first time, though, I know my worth is not tied to what others see, or fail to see. I am learning, piece by piece, to draw boundaries, to show up as myself, and to let the world adjust. Forgiveness, I've learned, always comes easier with pumpkin pie on the table. As the days grow shorter and the crisp November wind tugs the last gold leaves from the maples, an official invitation arrives in my inbox, subject line bold and unmistakable, Thanksgiving dinner, Sarah, we hope you'll be our guest of honor. For the first time in years, my name isn't buried in a group text or scribbled in as an afterthought. It sits right at the top. The card, digital, but still ornate with autumn leaves, comes from Mom, but Dad's handwriting peeks through in the note attached. You always did make the best mashed potatoes. We hope you'll bring them. It's an olive branch, awkward and tentative, yet strangely touching. I linger over it, reading it twice, sensing both apology and anxiety in every word. Our family group chat explodes soon after. Relatives I haven't heard from in years send messages full of questions and thinly disguised excitement. Will Sarah be there this year? Heard you're running half the city now. Save me a seat at your table, CEO. There are more winks and emojis than I know what to do with. Even Aunt Patricia, never one to miss a chance for drama, hints at rekindling our special bond, as if years of polite distance could be erased with a slice of pecan pie. The whole thing feels a little unreal, like the stage has shifted and suddenly, I'm meant to play a leading role I never auditioned for. I hesitate, scrolling through messages and picturing the familiar Miller dining room. I see Mom fussing over the centerpiece, Dad pretending not to care who sits where, Madison dazzling the room with stories and laughter. For years, I was the quiet presence at the edge of these scenes, helping in the kitchen, clearing plates, never quite in the spotlight. Now, everything feels different. Since the barbecue, every word, every look from my family is tinged with a new awareness. I know the questions are waiting for me, lining up behind the pumpkin bread and cranberry sauce. Why didn't you tell us? What is it like to be in charge? Can you really forgive us? I dread the forced conversation, the hollow congratulations, but part of me sees something else too, a chance to reclaim my place at the table, not as a footnote, but as myself. I write and delete my reply to Mom 3 times before finally sending, I'd be happy to come. I'll bring mashed potatoes, and pie. My hands shake a little as I press send. Almost immediately, her response bubbles in, "Wonderful. Can't wait to see you, sweetheart." Of all the voices in the chat, Madison's is missing. She doesn't answer any of the questions, doesn't RSVP, doesn't even send a GIF or a joke. I wonder if she's still angry, still nursing old wounds, or if she's just not ready to face what's changed between us. I know better than to push, so I let her silence hang, heavy but undisturbed. The week crawls by, each day a mix of nervous anticipation and reflection. I buy sweet potatoes and cinnamon, dust off the old casserole dish, and try to remember all the little rituals that once made these holidays feel special. I can't help but notice how much has shifted inside me, how I stand a little taller at work, how I speak up in meetings, how I no longer feel the need to apologize for the space I take up. Respect, I'm learning, is often something you have to give yourself before anyone else can. On the day before Thanksgiving, I pack up my car, tucking the pie carefully in the back seat. The sky is a low November gray, but the streets are bright with porch lights and flags and faded scarecrows. As I drive out of the city and into the old neighborhoods, my phone rings, Marcus's name flashing across the screen. "Sarah," he says, voice steady but serious, "I wanted to give you a heads up. There are going to be some major changes announced at Thompson next week, leadership shifts, new board members, maybe even a press release. I thought you'd want to be prepared." I listen, heart pounding, not sure if I should feel nervous or excited. "Thanks for telling me," I say. I guess this year, change really is everywhere. As I pull into my parents' driveway, I pause for a moment, hands on the wheel. The house looks just the same, warm lights in the windows, smoke curling from the chimney, the faded welcome mat waiting at the door. But I know, deep down, that this time I'll be walking in on my own terms. In families, and maybe in life, it takes courage to return, to risk forgiveness, to let people see who you become. As I gather my things and head for the door, I can almost smell the pie and the promise of something new waiting inside. This year, no one points me toward the kids' table. As soon as I step through the front door, there's a flurry of voices and hugs and flashes from a dozen cell phone cameras. "Sarah. Over here." Aunt Patricia calls, pushing her way through the crowd. Uncle George winks and snaps a selfie with me before I even have my coat off. Mom sweeps in, squeezing my shoulders a little too tightly. "There's my girl," she says, her voice trembling with excitement and nerves. "Come see what I did with the centerpiece, you'll love it." The house looks much the same, but the energy is unmistakably different. Everywhere I go, someone is waiting with a question, a favor, a thinly veiled request. "Sarah, could you look at my business plan? Do you think you could get my resume to your HR department? Just one photo, please. My friends won't believe I know the CEO." Even Tom, my brother-in-law, corners me in the hallway to ask about investment trends. I try to answer politely, but each conversation blurs into the next, a parade of expectations dressed up as admiration. Mom hovers at my elbow, fussing with my hair, adjusting my sweater, asking if I'm eating enough, if my apartment has good heat, if I need her casserole recipe again. I can tell she wants to make up for lost time, but the effect is overwhelming. For years, I wished for this attention. Now, under the bright lights of the dining room, I find myself longing for the quiet of my apartment, where I can just be Sarah, not the prodigal daughter. I pass the living room, glancing at the mantel where our old family photos stand in a row. I remember how, as a child, I would stretch and tiptoe to fit into the frame, always on the edge of the group, my smile just out of focus. There are new pictures now, weddings, birthdays, Madison's awards, but in nearly every one, I'm a shadow at the margins, half turned away or hidden behind someone else's cheer. Tonight, though, it's impossible to hide. My name is everywhere, my story told and retold by relatives who barely spoke to me last year. At one point, Aunt Patricia grabs my hand and announces, "We always knew you'd do something special." "Didn't we, George?" He nods, but I can see the disbelief in his eyes. Madison hasn't arrived yet, and I catch myself glancing at the door every few minutes. Tom seems to notice. He sidles up to me as Mom brings out appetizers. "She's coming," he whispers. "She just needed a minute." His tone is gentle, but there's a tension in his posture that makes me wonder how things have been between them lately. Finally, Madison appears, slipping in quietly while everyone else is distracted by the parade of side dishes. She's dressed simply, a navy cardigan and jeans, her hair pulled back, eyes shadowed. She offers a quick hello to the room, then finds a seat near the end of the table, carefully choosing a spot with no one on either side. Tom tries to bridge the distance, sitting across from her, but his efforts fall flat, his jokes die mid-sentence, and Madison barely looks up. Dinner is served, and for a while, the old rituals take over. There's laughter, clinking silverware, stories about holidays past. But underneath it all, the currents run deep and uneven. Every few minutes, someone circles back to my work, my company, the big secret that isn't really secret anymore. "So, Sarah," Patricia leans in conspiratorially, "how did you pull it off? Running a company and keeping it quiet for so long. You must have nerves of steel." I laugh, but it feels hollow. "It wasn't as glamorous as you think. Just a lot of late nights and saying no to things I wanted to say yes to." Uncle George jumps in. "And you never told your own sister?" "That's something else." I glance down at my plate, not trusting myself to answer. Madison's fork scrapes against her plate. "Maybe she didn't think we'd understand," she says, her voice low. Someone asks about stock options, someone else about business travel. Mom tries to steer the conversation to the food, but the questions keep coming. For every answer I give, there's another query, another request, another gentle nudge for access or advice. The pressure builds, and I catch Madison's eyes flicking back and forth between me and the rest of the table. Her cheeks are flushed, her lips pressed into a tight line. Suddenly, she puts her fork down with a clatter that silences the room. "Enough," she says, her voice sharper than I've ever heard. "Just stop. For years, I was the one you bragged about. I did everything I could to make you proud, good grades, the right job, the right friends. But it was never enough, not after Sarah pulled off her secret life. Now she's all you talk about." Her words hang in the air, raw and electric. "You want to know what it's like? It's exhausting. Watching everyone's heads turn when she walks in, hearing you all go on and on about how amazing she is. You never cared this much about my work, never cared unless it made you look good. And Sarah," she turns to me, eyes blazing, "you could have told me. You could have let me in. But you liked being the underdog. You liked making us look small." I'm too stunned to reply. Around us, forks hover in midair, glasses freeze halfway to lips. Mom's eyes fill with tears. Dad looks away, jaw clenched. Madison stands, pushing her chair back with a scrape that echoes through the room. "You can have the spotlight," she says quietly. "I hope it makes you happy." She leaves, slipping out the front door into the cold November night. I sit there, staring at the empty space she left behind, unsure if anything can bridge the distance between us now. The chatter in the dining room picks up in fits and starts, but nothing feels quite the same. Sometimes families laugh together. Sometimes they unravel right in front of the mashed potatoes. Tonight, all I can do is watch Madison's shadow disappear down the walk and wonder if we'll ever find our way back to each other. Sometimes healing begins with truth, even when it hurts. The house is quieter after dinner, laughter replaced by the hum of the dishwasher and the low sound of football from the living room. I find myself slipping outside, into the chilly air of the backyard, craving space after the long, heavy meal and Madison's dramatic exit. The sky is a navy blue velvet, the last leaves clinging to the maple branches, and my breath floats in the air as I pace beneath the porch light. I'm halfway across the yard when I hear footsteps crunching in the leaves behind me. Madison's silhouette, arms folded tightly across her chest, appears in the glow. For a second, neither of us speaks. We stand in the silence that's built up over years, a wall, invisible but thick, layered with things unsaid. Finally, she breaks it. "You really know how to put on a show, Sarah." Her voice is strained, but there's less venom in it than at the table. "I hope you're happy. You humiliated the whole family back there. Mom's in tears, Dad looks like he lost a fight. She stops, voice cracking. You didn't have to do it that way." I turn toward her, feeling the weight of everything that's passed between us. "Madison, I never wanted any of this. I didn't want a scene, I didn't want to hurt you or anyone. But you have to understand," I swallow, my throat tight. "For years, I was invisible. I did everything right, and still. I was always just the spare. You took credit for my work when we were kids, you got the best parts, the best praise. Even now, it's like the family runs on what Madison needs or wants. I got tired of pretending it didn't matter." She shakes her head, but her eyes are glistening. "You think it was easy for me? You think being the favorite felt good?" I was terrified, Sarah. I felt like if I slipped up once, everything would fall apart. You don't know what it's like to feel like you have to be perfect just to be loved. There's a pause, two grown women, finally honest, voices shaking, hands cold in the autumn night. "When we were little," I say, voice soft, "I told you you'd always be my sister, no matter what. Even when you forgot about me at school, or told everyone it was your science project, not ours. I still meant it." She lets out a breath, shaky and loud, her shoulders slumping. "I'm sorry, Sarah. For all of it. I was so scared of losing what I had that I never thought about how you felt. For the first time in a long while, I let myself be angry, but not bitter. I forgive you, Madison. But things can't go back to how they were. I'm not hiding anymore. I can't shrink to fit the space you left for me." She nods, wiping tears from her cheek with the back of her hand. "I know. I don't want you to. She stops, laughing a little, sad and small. "I wish I'd been braver. I wish I'd asked for help, instead of trying to beat you." We stand there, sisters again, imperfect, bruised, but breathing the same cold air. The porch light flickers, and somewhere inside, Mom's voice calls for us, soft and uncertain. For a moment, neither of us moves. It's not a resolution, not the kind you see in movies, but it's real, a fragile truce, held together by the shared ache of growing up. Madison pulls me into a hug, holding on a second longer than usual. "We'll figure it out," she whispers. "Eventually." I nod, feeling lighter and heavier all at once. "Yeah. Eventually." Back inside, the house is winding down, leftovers packed away, relatives saying their goodbyes, Dad already half asleep in his chair. I wander up to my childhood room, now a guest space, and sit on the edge of the bed, letting the quiet settle around me. My phone vibrates, the glow harsh in the dark. A new message from HR, investigation complete. Please see us first thing tomorrow. I close my eyes, heart pounding, knowing that forgiveness at home is only half the battle. Tomorrow, I'll have to make choices at work that will echo through all of our lives. But tonight, at least, I let myself believe in second chances. In family. In the slow, sometimes painful, work of healing. Family and business, I've discovered, make for a volatile mix. At their best, they blend loyalty and trust. At their worst, they set off sparks no one can put out. Monday morning arrives gray and raw, the aftertaste of Thanksgiving lingering as I drive through the city to Thompson Industries. My mind drifts back to my first real risk years ago, the one I took without a cheer squad, the one that showed me who I could be when I stood alone. I remember the late nights, the tiny, rented office, the way I stared at the ceiling wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Sometimes, courage is just a quiet decision you make when no one is watching. Today, I walk into the headquarters not as a question mark but as the CEO, determined to see this mess through. My phone buzzes, HR wants to see me first thing. I stop by my office, take a deep breath, and gather my composure. The meeting is swift, clinical. The HR director lays out the findings. Madison has a documented pattern of taking credit for others' work, bending the rules, misusing company resources. The facts are clear, the conclusion inevitable. Afterward, I call Madison into a private corner office. She steps in, her eyes wary, posture defensive but already tired. There's a tension in the air that feels heavier than anything we ever faced as children. I gesture for her to sit. Madison, I begin, voice calm but unyielding, we both know what's in the report. You have two options. You can resign quietly, and I'll give you a letter of reference reflecting your best work here. Or you can refuse, and I'll have to let you go, formally, and very publicly. I don't want to do that, but I can't protect you from the consequences anymore. She holds my gaze for a long moment, hurt and humiliation battling in her expression. So that's it? Just like that? I nod. This isn't about us being sisters. It's about the company. The rules apply to everyone. You can start over, Madison. But it won't be here. The words hang between us, cold and necessary. She looks down at her hands, twisting her ring in a nervous gesture that reminds me, painfully, of how young we both once were. After a few seconds, she nods. Fine. I'll resign. I know when I'm beaten. I let out a breath, feeling an odd mix of relief and sorrow. I hand her the signed reference letter, and for a moment, I almost reach out, almost comfort her the way I would have as kids. But she stands quickly, grabbing her purse and heading for the door. Marcus appears in the hallway as she passes, offering her a polite but distant nod. When she's gone, he turns to me. That couldn't have been easy, he says, voice low. It wasn't, I reply. But it was right. He gives me a reassuring smile. You set the tone for the whole company today. Fairness matters, Sarah. People will notice. Back in my office, I call a quick meeting with the department heads. I announce promotions for 2 team members, overlooked for years, but always diligent, always dependable. The relief on their faces reminds me why I started down this path in the first place. Merit means something here now. For the first time, Thompson Industries feels like the company I dreamed of building, not a playground for favorites, but a place where everyone has a shot. A little later, I glance out the window and spot Madison in the parking lot, carrying a single box of her things. She doesn't look up. I watch her drive away, the tail lights shrinking into the traffic, and feel a bittersweet ache in my chest. There's relief, the boundaries I needed are finally in place, but also a lingering sadness. No matter how necessary, loss is still loss. The phone rings. It's Mom, her voice pinched with worry. Sarah, honey, you have to help your sister. She says you're ruining her life. Can't you fix this? Can't you do something? I close my eyes, steadying myself. Mom, I'm not punishing Madison. I'm doing what's right for everyone, including her. I can't change the rules for family. Not anymore. She sighs, tears pricking at the edges of her words. I just want you two to get along. I just want our family back. I let her talk, but inside, I know that real family doesn't mean blind forgiveness or unchecked loyalty. It means doing what's fair, even when it's hard. I look around my office, at the photos, the plans, the team that trusts me to lead. I remind myself that leadership isn't about pleasing everyone. Sometimes, it's about protecting what matters most. As the day winds down, I feel a new kind of peace settling in, a sense of having chosen the right kind of hard. For the first time, the boundaries between family and work are clear. And I'm finally, quietly, proud of the person I've become. Sometimes the only way forward is straight through the mess. It's early December, the days short and the sky often low with snow clouds. I find myself standing at the window of my apartment, watching headlights flicker through the haze, reflecting on what's been lost and what's been found since that explosive autumn. There's a knock at my door, anxious, familiar. I open it to see Mom and Dad, bundled in winter coats, carrying a battered shoebox and a lidded container that smells suspiciously like chicken pot pie. Dad tries to smile. We brought dinner, he says, a little too loudly. And, some old things we found. Inside, we settle around my small kitchen table. Mom fusses with the cutlery while Dad opens the shoebox, spreading a handful of faded photographs across the table. There's one of me and Madison as little girls, grinning on the back steps, hair tangled and knees scraped. I catch Mom watching my face, unsure of how I'll react. She clears her throat. We've been talking, your father and I. About how things turned out. About where we went wrong. The words are halting, heavy. Dad picks at a seam in the vinyl tablecloth, unable to meet my eyes. We didn't do right by you, Sarah. I thought pushing you would help. I didn't see what it was costing you. Mom squeezes my hand, her own trembling a little. We're proud of you. We always were. Just, sometimes, pride got tangled up in other things. We eat in fits and starts, conversation awkward but honest. They ask about work, about my apartment, about whether I'm seeing anyone. It's clumsy, but I can hear the effort behind it, the desire to reach for something better, even if their hands shake. After they leave, I linger at the table, shuffling through the old photos. I remember tearing one up after the barbecue, a small act of defiance, swearing I'd build a new story for myself, one where I could finally take up space in the frame. Looking at the pictures now, I don't feel quite so angry. Maybe we can't undo the past, but there's room to add a few new snapshots to the box. Later in the week, I meet Marcus at a cafe downtown. The windows are foggy with steam, and he's already got 2 coffees waiting. You look tired, he says, sliding one across the table. But stronger. You did something most people never manage, Sarah, you set a new standard for everyone around you. I laugh, blowing on the coffee to hide my embarrassment. That's one word for it. Most days it feels like I'm just learning how to disappoint people the right way. Marcus grins. Family can surprise you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Either way, you survived. That counts for something. As we talk, I find myself reflecting not just on the rift, but on the slow work of building something new, trust, respect, a place at my own table. The cost of honesty has been high, but I'm starting to see what I've gained, a life that fits, even if it's sometimes lonely, and a family that, piece by piece, is learning how to meet me where I am. Back at the office, the holiday season is in full swing. The annual company charity gala is coming up, and for the first time, I decide to extend the invitation to my family. It's a risk, a new beginning, maybe. I call Mom. "I'd like you and Dad to come. Bring whoever you want. It'll be good to have you there." My voice is steady, even as my stomach twists with nerves. That night, as I finish some last-minute emails, my phone buzzes. A new message from Madison, just 3 words. "I might come." I sit in the glow of the screen, feeling hope mixed with fear. Healing doesn't happen in grand gestures, I'm learning. Sometimes it's just the slow, ordinary work of showing up, again and again, for yourself and for each other. A year after the truth unraveled at the family barbecue, I finally know where I belong. Sometimes I still think about that summer afternoon, the way I hovered at the edge of every conversation, more ghost than guest in my own family. It feels distant now, as if those shadows belong to someone else. Tonight, the Thompson Industries holiday charity event fills the local community center with laughter, music, and the smell of cinnamon and pine. Strings of lights dangle from the rafters, and the coat racks overflow with scarves and mittens. There's a quiet magic to December in Ohio, every face a little rosier, every voice a little softer, as if the cold outside makes us cherish each warm moment more. For weeks, I juggled details, sponsors, invitations, speeches, menus. But as guests arrive, my nerves fade into a sense of calm I never thought I'd feel. I walk the floor, greeting employees, volunteers, board members, all of us bundled together by this strange, wonderful company I built. I catch glimpses of my parents across the room. Mom, dressed in her holiday red, is fussing over a tray of cookies for the bake sale. Dad is talking fishing with Marcus, animated and relaxed, the old stiffness in his shoulders replaced by a quiet pride. They wave when they spot me, and this time the pride in their eyes feels honest, not performed for anyone else's benefit. During my short welcome speech, Mom dabs at her eyes, and Dad's applause is the first to rise above the rest. I feel something deep and old unwind inside me, like a knot quietly coming undone. Halfway through the night, Madison slips in, her hair damp with melted snow. She's late, but she's here. She lingers by the door before making her way over, offering a shy smile. "Need help at the charity table?" she asks. Her voice is soft, but there's no resentment left in it, just the tentative hope of someone testing new ground. I nod and let her take over the shift, watching as she jokes with a coworker and hands out cookies. For the first time in ages, there's an easy peace between us. The event hums with little moments of kindness, a quiet donation pressed into a mittened hand, a shared laugh over a dropped ornament, the warm chaos of families and coworkers mingling together. At one point, someone shouts, "Photo time," and, before I know it, I'm swept into the center of a spontaneous, unposed group picture. Mom and Dad are on either side of me, arms around my waist. Madison stands just behind, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. The whole team is there, friends and family jumbled together, no one pushed to the edge or left out of the frame. No one hiding, no one missing. For a moment, I let myself just be, no titles, no old scores, just present. I look around and see my family, flawed, funny, loud, sometimes lost, but here. I realize that I don't need their approval anymore, but tonight, I find I actually enjoy their company. There's a wholeness to it, an easy laughter, a shared history that feels less heavy than before. As the last guests bundle up and drift out into the snowy night, I stand by the door, watching the flakes spin under the streetlights. I think about all the ways home has changed for me this year, no longer a place I have to earn, but one I can choose, wherever I am. I breathe in the cold, clean air, feeling peace settle around my heart like a warm blanket. Life rarely ties itself up with a bow, but tonight, the story feels complete. I have a place at my own table, one I built, one I share, one I no longer have to fight for. And as the world grows quiet under the falling snow, I know with certainty that, at last, I am home. As I stood by the door, watching the snow settle outside and laughter fading behind me, I felt something I hadn't known for years, a quiet sense of belonging. Sometimes, finding your place isn't about being seen by everyone, but about letting yourself be at peace with who you've become. This journey taught me that family is rarely perfect, but love and forgiveness have a way of softening old hurts and bringing us together, even after difficult seasons. If we listen with our hearts and offer each other a little more patience, we might be surprised by the grace that follows. If my story has touched you or reminded you of your own, I invite you to share your thoughts, or simply carry its lesson into your day. In the end, kindness and understanding are what truly make a house a home.